All right, ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you back to the Instant Preview and Reaction Series, segment number 31. We are joined by the managing editor of the Eagles Wire, part of the USA Today SMG Group, covering my Philadelphia Eagles, Glenn Erby. Glenn, thank you so much for joining us here tonight. How are things in the city of brotherly love?
Mike, Joey, appreciate you guys having me on. Things are great, a little cool, but Super Bowl, everything's great. Sixers, everything's great.
I love to hear it, man. Absolutely. But this is the part where I feel like, it hits close to home. Glenn, you and I have officially outnumbered Mike here in this group here. I'm assuming, Glenn, you're an Eagles fan, right?
Correct.
As you're right. Okay, good. So me and you, Eagles fans here, we can officially gang up on Mike here in this in this. He's a Giants fan, so
Oh man. You got to talk to your guys, Julian Love, Mike. But I feel you. I feel you.
Oh man, I like it, Glenn. Already, this is great. So thanks so much for coming on, man. The big thing obviously is Jalen Hurts, year number 3, still on the rookie contract, and this is year number 2 under Nick Sirianni, and he has come full circle. Obviously he got drafted under Doug Peterson and Howie Roseman just a few years ago, and obviously him donning number 2 in 2020, and it was not a good year, obviously, where Carson Wentz was eventually given the axe. And here he is, year 3. He looked really good last year, and now he's arguably an MVP candidate, a finalist for the MVP award this season. What have you seen from him that has really, turned everything around for him?
I think he's a worker. I mean, I think I don't even necessarily know if it's turning things around. I think he's just stayed the course. You've heard him talk about not having the same offensive coordinator since high school.
Yep.
So this off season, he had the same offensive coordinator, same system, same coaches. He spent the off season retooling his mechanics, working with Tom Brady's throwing coach. Quincy Avery, his own throwing coach. So, he improves there. He's improved his decision making. The ball's coming out faster. He's a grinder. He's a worker. He's all about the process. And you're seeing the process come full circle now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's truly amazing to see. And obviously, because Howie Roseman, I always call him the magician because, and I've said this for however long, ever since Chip Kelly was fired, he was able to, to get all these guys off and just maneuver the cap so well. And we saw it obviously this year too. We saw it last year, and bringing all of these guys back. And obviously he was able to also bring in AJ Brown too. And, last year, Devontae Smith was, just a few years ago, he was the Heisman winner. He won 2 national championships at Alabama. And now he could be joining a very small crop of players. I think there's only like 4 total that have ever won national championship, a Heisman, and a Super Bowl. And I think there was one more award. I believe I saw that on the Eagles Wire. I do not remember exactly which one, but nonetheless, he looked fantastic last year, and now he's got AJ Brown next to him. It's truly remarkable to see what these 2 wideouts can do.
Oh, I mean, they're an awesome tandem. I think, I was telling someone, you hear the swole Batman, the skinny Batman, but it's kind of a reverse thing. AJ Brown's the big play guy. Devontae Smith is tough as nails. He's going to get you the tough catch in traffic. So they complement each other very well. They love to see each other do well. You love to see that. You hear stuff about AJ Brown and his alleged outburst, but they both want the ball. They're both alpha males. So it's an amazing combination indeed.
Yeah, amazing. Well, now we're going to throw it over to the Giants fan. Mike Szabo, take it over. We got to include you in this one.
Well, Glenn, thanks so much for taking out some time out with us to talk about the Eagles. We talk about Jalen Hurts as a worker. How about Lane Johnson? And I mean, just continuing to put together this postseason run while having the torn adductor. And we heard this morning that any healing that had been done in recent weeks supposedly is all retorn. You can't imagine what he's going through. And now Landon Dickerson has the hyperextended elbow, so he's having some health issues. Is there any concern about the offensive line? I mean, we've seen Johnson put it together for now. But is there any concern about the health of this offensive line and how they can manage it in the Super Bowl, protect Hurts and get that run game going?
No, not really. I mean, I think, when you talk about strength, this is the NFL's best offensive line. It's probably the deepest. So if someone does get hurt, you still got a first round pick in Andre Dillard that can slide in at left tackle or guard now. You still have Cam Jurgens, second round pick, can slide in at center, guard, other things like that. So you have a deep offensive line. Lane Johnson's all world. I think it's a situation where this is the final game. The extra week helps in the preparation, but they're going to play. If some guys need to be inserted or if they need to interchange a few things, that'll happen as well. But the play is not going to drop off that far. So I don't think there aren't too many worries. No.
Yeah, truly amazing to see. And something else before I throw it right back to Mike. The older guys, Jason Kelsey. It's truly remarkable to see what he's done at 35 years old. And I think back to when I had gone to the parade, and him in the whole suit and everything, and him firing up the crowd. And I'll never forget getting there at 2:30 in the morning, and we were still in the back. There were so many people, and I'm sure you were at the parade too, covering it and whatnot. But it's amazing to see him 5 years later, and there's obviously some minor reports saying this could be it for him. I don't know if that's 100% the case, but with Kelsey, and obviously with his offensive line coach and Jeff Stoutland, who has got to be the best offensive line coach. And again, I'm not speaking of that as a fan. That's just, I think, what with the work that he has put in with these guys and shifting guys and whatever the case is, and working with a Jordan Mailata too from Australia, who never played the game of American football a day in his life a few years ago. It's amazing to see what has gone on here with both Kelsey and Stoutland too.
No, I mean they're a superb group. I mean Kelsey's year to year, he'll take it day by day. So we don't know him, and he just made another All Pro. So the decision will be his. He can still play at a high level. They're a tough group. You have 2 All Pros. You have a Pro Bowler and a Dickerson. Mailata could have been a Pro Bowler. Sumala would be probably the best player on somebody else's offensive line. So it's an amazing group. Stoutland's the top guy. We appreciate the fact that he doesn't really want to be a head coach or anything like that. And I think it's just a testament to the culture, to the gold standard, and to what Jeffrey Lurie's built in the city.
Oh, yeah. Mike, take it away.
Well, I think coming up with this matchup with the Chiefs, you always look at any football game and the matchups with the offensive lines and the defensive lines of each side. These are 2 really good offensive lines, two really good defensive lines, especially the way the Eagles played in that NFC Championship game. You knocked out 2 quarterbacks. They just were absolutely hounding, led by Hassan Reddick. Really fascinating. Is there some sort of an edge in Philadelphia's perspective, or a key that matchup that they have to win in order on any of those sides down in the trenches that in order to win the Super Bowl?
Well, I think defensively, you want to see that same production. You saw the Bengals able to get after Mahomes somewhat, able to make him scramble, make him get out of the pocket. So you want to see that same prowess that you've seen from Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat, and those guys. So I think if there's any matchup, you don't want a situation where an injured Pat Mahomes comes out and starts the Super Bowl 11-11 or something that we've seen with, elite quarterbacks, what they've done to the Eagles in the past. So I think from the standpoint of pressuring off the edge, of being stout up front, you want to see Reddick, you want to see Brandon Graham, you want to see that defensive line come in waves and produce pressure without blitzing. Mahomes is probably the best in the league at getting what he wants and getting you over the top when you blitz. So I think it's imperative that the Eagles and Jonathan Gannon's front is able to get to Mahomes and produce that pressure with 3 or 4 guys and not a 5th.
I'm very intrigued also, Glenn, to see, because we remember a couple of years ago, right, when Kansas City's offensive line was so bad in the Super Bowl, right? We remember that. And it was something that he simply could not escape from.
Correct.
And they eventually lost, and I was mind blown when that Super Bowl occurred. But now you look at it and you say to yourself, oh crap, if you're a Chiefs fan, now we're going up against pretty much 2 defensive lines rotation wise that can absolutely haunt you for 60 minutes. And there's no way around it, where you have Hassan Reddick, who can obviously move from the linebacker spot onto the defensive line, and you could just keep on just the rotations, and everything is just truly amazing with what this team is all about. And that brings me to my next point also about Brandon Graham too, because and again, maybe this is my bias, and Mike will probably laugh at this when I say this because, he's all about Saquon Barkley and the comeback player of the year. But listen, I don't know when the last time a defensive player won a comeback player of the year. I really don't. If anyone's watching here, please tweet at me at Real Joey Jazz. Let me know. But I almost feel like Brandon Graham, because he tore his ACL last year, should have been in that category. Now, granted, he did not lead his team to the playoffs like Saquon Barkley did because there were so many superstars. But Glenn, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, Brandon Graham is just he's like an ageless wonder.
No, I agree. I think, it's a cool award, but I think it's a situation where you could take Geno Smith and guys like they didn't disappear. They just weren't that good previously. So you're talking about a guy that, got hurt in the second game, missed the rest of the year, come back, double-digit sacks, only plays 20 to 25 snaps a game. They're all highly productive snaps, at least 12 or 13 of those pass rush snaps are pressures. So, I mean, he's an amazing guy. He's talked about wanting to play 2 or 3 more years, even if it's not with the Eagles. So he's going to continue to be highly productive. But I think it just speaks to his growth, his development over the years and how productive he's been.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's truly, it's like I said, it's amazing to see what he continues to do. And he'll be meeting his former head coach that drafted him way back when in 2011. And obviously Andy Reid is an old friend of ours, that's for sure. And it's truly amazing to see also that Andy Reid, when he got to Kansas City, he did not retain Nick Sirianni too. And I know that that's probably going to be mentioned come media week in a few days. And Glenn, I think the question for you is that, this time we're going up, the Eagles are going up against Andy Reid, an old friend. And, does that have do you feel that Nick has some sort of, I don't think the best word to put it would be edge, but any sort of issue with that from years ago? Do you think that's still on his mind or that's in the past?
I don't know if we can call it an issue, but you could be certain that Andy Reid fired him. That's on his mind. I don't know how he'll relay that to his players, but in terms of him having an edge, in terms of him entering the week with a chip on his shoulder, correct. I mean, he's something he's talked about. It's something that, when Reid walked in the room, he thought they were going to discuss the plans going forward, and he let him know he no longer needed his services. So that'll be a storyline this week, indeed. Yes.
Yeah, it's truly it's amazing to see that all come to fruition, and now everything coming together. It's amazing. But obviously, Andy Reid, big part of Eagles history, but was pretty unsuccessful in NFC Championship games. We know that he was just 1-4 in his tenure as the Eagles head coach, and this obviously has some meaning for some of these players that played for him. And now they're on to their 4th head coach, as we said, Brandon Graham, Jason Kelsey, and it's just like I said, and Fletcher Cox, of course, too, because he was the one that drafted him. So, those 3 guys that we brought up, is there some sort of, I guess, full circle moment here? What do you expect from those 3 and, with Andy Reid too, and what they've meant to him?
I mean, I think it's love all the way around. I think that the coach selected those guys. I think, it's a situation where I think for them, it'd be about if they get this win, they'll have more Super Bowl wins than him. But I think it's been a decade since he's been gone. So I think it's nothing personal here. I think, he lost his job. It wasn't a situation where he took another job or he left them. So I think you have that competitive fire, that spirit where you'll have your coach now having more Super Bowl wins than him. But I think in terms of it being personal or anything like that, no, I don't think so. But I think they definitely want to beat the guy that drafted them. I think they definitely want to beat the guy that kind of set this whole standard, this whole culture in motion. Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say student versus teacher, or students versus teacher, because
Correct.
again, every single thing, when you look back on whatever it is in that Eagles locker room, it all stems back from him. So all good things there. But something now, I guess we kind of enough with the past of the Philadelphia Eagles, but now we go into the preview of the game itself. And this is something that I got to read, Glenn, on the Eagles Wire, and something that you had posted a few days ago was about Steve Spagnuolo loving his cornerbacks playing press coverage, and that's what they've been doing for so long, and that's kind of Spagnuolo's specialty too. And I did not realize also that A.J. Brown leads the league in yards per route, 4.5 yards per route in 2022. And since 2019, total of 572 receiving yards, which is the most in the league since 2019. Is A.J. Brown set to absolutely dominate the Chiefs and potentially without L'Jarius Sneed too, their number one corner?
No, without a doubt. I think him. I think Devontae Smith. I think Quez Watkins. In terms of his deep threat ability, I think you have the chance for some fireworks. The Chiefs are going to score, so I don't think it's going to be a situation where this is going to be some type of intense defensive battle. So I think you'll AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts early. First series, they'll have their chances to take their shots, and I think they'll be successful. I think you've heard some whispers about the 49ers slowing them down some, and that's cool. But it was cold in Philadelphia. It was raining. I don't think it'll be that way in Glendale. I think it'll be dry. It'll be hot, and the track stars will have their way. So I think those will be matchups to watch, and I think A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith will be highlighted early and often.
Yeah, that's definitely something else too. And obviously now with Avonte Maddox being back too, whoever donated their toe to Avonte Maddox, thank you for doing so. But he's back now, and obviously to pretty much with this big five now, and with James Bradbury, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Avonte Maddox, and Darius Slay too, and we saw just after the NFC Championship game how Darius Slay, he had to pretty much escape everything because he was crying and he didn't want to look like a big baby. But this is arguably, Glenn, one of the best secondaries that this team has ever seen put together. And we remember for so many years also, and even during the Super Bowl run the first time in 2017 when it was Jalen Mills, it was Malcolm Jenkins, it was Jalen Watkins, it was all of those guys there, Corey Graham. They were not hyped up. It was always that front seven that was really the guys that carried them to their first ever Super Bowl trophy. This time it's pretty much all around, and obviously Howie Roseman made a conscious effort to make this his secondary a priority. What have you seen this year that what have you seen this year that potentially can last longer as opposed to just 1 year? Because obviously Bradbury is a 1-year deal coming from, former New York Giants legend, right, James Bradbury. But this is something that is going to be a work of art in terms of money. Is this sustainable?
I think so. I think that the bigger loss would be C.J. Gardner-Johnson. So we love James Bradbury, but you can kind of get corners. You can draft corners. He's had an all-pro season. You don't want to discount what he's done, but Gardner-Johnson is a Swiss Army knife at safety, and you kind of want that there. So having Avonte Maddox in the slot, you can kind of maneuver some things. You don't want to lose Bradbury, but I think you want to make sure that you have the safeties in place. I think it was seeing Reed Blankenship develop as an undrafted free agent. That's like a first or second round draft pick just coming out of nowhere. So that helps. But I think you want to make sure that you keep the two safeties straight. You have Slay for a year or two. So I think at some point, in the first round, second round, they're going to address the cornerback situation. But I think it's a situation where those two safeties, Blankenship and C.J. Gardner-Johnson, they can be staples for the future.
Definitely something that is very, very crazy to see, because again, I can't think of the last time that since really the Lito Shepherd days, Brian Dawkins days, that it was really a solid, formidable secondary, and here we've got it. So my last question to you, actually, I'm going to throw it over to Mike Szabo because he always does the Rob DeLuca special. So Mike, take it away.
Well, yeah, like Joey said, the Rob DeLuca special. Glenn, what do you think? What do we see going into this game? What do you think's going to happen? What do you predict for this Super Bowl?
Well, I think it'll be a shootout. I think it'll be an exciting game. I think the Eagles are the better team. I think they have the better overall roster. Of course, Kansas City has the better quarterback. Neither quarterback's 100%. So I think the team that's able to establish the run first. You know, regardless that both teams want to pass, you want the Eagles to be able to establish the run. And like we talked about, get pressure off the edge. I think they'll do that. I think they'll be able to harass Mahomes. I see the 38-31 Philadelphia. Last team half the ball.
Oh God, I don't know if my heart could take it. I don't know if my heart could take it. And this is, oh man, that is not a score I wanted to hear. Oh man. Well, I'll tell you this much. You know, if it is like that, if it is a 7-point game, and if it is a high scoring game, well, I'll see you guys at the hospital. That's kind of what happens. Put me on oxygen, but my goodness. Listen, Glenn, we truly appreciate you coming on, man. Truly, it's amazing to have you are actually our first Philadelphia Eagles writer that we have had on ever. And I always say this to my friend Mike here, and I always say this to our other co-host Ian Schreier, who's unfortunately under the weather tonight. And they're both Giants fans, and I always say, when can we get someone that covers the Eagles? We are so glad we had you tonight. And we hope to have you back on in the future.
Oh, anytime. I appreciate you guys having me on. You got a great show, great setup. And anytime, just let me know. But thank you guys again.
Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back with more right after this on the Eastern Observer.